Welcome back to Good Knit Kisses. I'm your host Kristen, and we are in our Loom Knitting Cast On series. Let's get started. We're going to do the Picot cast on today, and I wanted to show you the sample of what the Picot looks like. And this is the Picot bind off that I've done, and it has a little bit of a chain to it. Now the cast on doesn't have that as much, but it looks very much like it, and then when you flip them over they actually look the same on the back as well. So in order to do this, I wanted to explain a little bit. I have to do something a little funny on the end when I cast on. I'm going to add an extra stitch, which actually ends up getting sort of absorbed and you don't notice it, and then it matches whenever I do the bind off. And then this part here on the cast on, it is going to look a little wonky here, but it also just will strap right in and weave in. I just wanted you to see what it looks like loose, but it will end up connecting to another panel or connecting in here and weaving in very nicely. And so you don't end up having like an extra cast on piece here, an extra stitch, so that it looks like it's jogged. So it's just a nice clean look. So let's get started, and also be sure and tune in for the bind off video. Thank you. To do the Picot cast on, we're going to put a slip knot on a crochet hook that will fit in between our loom, and we want to go ahead and do a chain cast on. And we're going to go ahead and do 3. And on the third one, just go ahead and slip that on. And if you notice, I actually did it on the second to last, right before the stitch marker. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and start binding off. Now I'm getting my loom pick out here. So we've cast on 3, and we're going to actually bind off 2. What we want to do is E-wrap around and knit off that first stitch. Whenever you bind off, you're going to knit off that first one. Go ahead and knit off this one, and we're going to move it to the last stitch, snug that up and work the stitch, and then move it over. So we've bound off 1, and now we're going to wrap this one, knit that off, move it over, snug it up, and knit it over. Okay, so now we have this little bitty Picot on the back here, if you can see that. I'm at a different angle, as you notice, from what I usually would do, because I want you to be able to see the back a little bit. So now that we have this on here, we're going to be casting on, and for every 2 pegs you're going to have 1 Picot. So if I want to have 12 Picots, I need to cast on 24 pegs. We're just going to do a couple on here, and then you can just rewind and keep pausing your video if you need it. So I'm going to put my pick down, pick up my crochet hook, and then I'm actually going to, the Picot cast on takes a little longer to do because you really need to pick this stitch up to do the chain cast on. If you try and chain on from it in a position of being on the peg, you're not going to get an extra amount of stitches in the back. You actually need this extra amount of yarn that it pulls through when it does this. So we're going to go around. This is our number 1 peg, and we're replacing it back on. So we're not going to count this as a cast on. Okay, so we've got the crochet hook through our loop. We're going to go in between the first peg and the last peg, wrap around our yarn, pull it through, and we want to make sure it goes through this loop here. Now if you can't get it, then we're going to have you move it, the back loop over the front loop. And I actually find that when I'm doing this, it's easier for me to go to turn my loom around and go on the back side, but I'm showing you this position, and hopefully this will help to be able to see exactly what it's supposed to look like from the front. So now that I've come around here, I want to move my loop towards the back here between pegs 2 and 3 and stick my crochet hook out, grab the yarn, pull it through. Okay, and now I've casted on 1 and cast on 2, cast on 3, and then take my hook and put that on for 4. Okay, so now we have 4 casted on. We're going to put our hook down, pick our loom pick up, and we want to bind off. So we're going to wrap around and knit off this first peg here, and then knit this one off, move the stitch over, work it, move it, snug that up, okay, and then knit over the next stitch, move it over, work the stitch, move it. Okay, so we just bound off 2. Now if you look on the back, we have 2 picots. 1 picot, 2 picot, and then there's a little gap in between. Okay, but there's 2 loops on the back of my loom here, on this peg here, that doesn't have a picot behind it. So now we've successfully casted those 2 on. We want to pick it up again, so we're going to put down our pick, and we're going to take this off. If you need it, you can pick up with this. And on a larger gauge loom, you may not need to use your pick for that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead around this peg here and pull our yarn, because you're pulling from this side so that you can get the yarn onto the peg here. Pull around, turn your hook so you can grab it and pull it through. Oh. Let's try this again. Okay, got that through. Sorry, it took a little bit. I probably got it a little too tight, but I want to keep this snug for the picots. I think it looks better. Okay, so that one is now, that's not casted on. I'm just getting it back on there. Now I'm going to cast on officially 4. Now we're going to put this working strand in between peg 3 and 4 and take our loop behind peg 4 in between 4 and 5 and grab the strand. Okay, that is 1. And now we have 2 and 3 and 4, and I probably need a smaller hook. That's probably my problem. This is a size G. I need probably a size down from this. So now I can put this down again, and we want to go ahead and work this here, knit it off, knit off this one, move it, work the stitch, move it. Okay, that's bind off 1. We're going to bind off 2, move it, bind off, and move it back, and that's 2 bind offs. So the key is to cast on 4, bind off 2, cast on 4, bind off 2. The only exception is the very first one. The very first one, it's not necessary. We still need 2 bind offs, but it's not necessary to cast on more than 1. It does end up evening out. And in that sample that I knitted, you can see that. Now, when you turn this over and you look at it from the back, the picots might look a little strange. You might say wonky. They're a little strange, but I promise that they're okay. So they don't look exactly right until you get all the rest of your knitting on there, and then they start straightening up. And especially if it's something that you can block, then I would suggest doing that to make them look their best. Let's do one more. We're going to pick this off, grab our hook. All right, so Got that on there. I'm going to pull it on through. Now we're going to cast on 1, 2, 3, and 4. Knit off 1, knit off 2, move it, work it, move it again, snug that up. That's the first bind off, knit off, move it, work it, move it, and you're done. We got 4 picots. So we finished up, but not really, because we want to take this off and put in our crochet hook. We have 1 more to cast on. So we need to have an even number of stitches. So we're going to pull this on through, and then now we're going to put this chain cast on our last stitch. So now we have 2, 4, 6, 8 stitches across for this panel, and it will become an even panel, so that if we do a picot on the other side, say a blanket or something like that, it's going to match. So if you want to go ahead and start knitting across, you can start your panel, and I'm going to continue this on, and then I will make a bind off video to see how this matches up. So stay tuned. Please try this cast on, because I know it's difficult, but it would be great if you could learn a new one and try and expand your knowledge. And this cast on is closer to the needle cast on. If you're using needles and you want to do picots, this is exactly how it's done. As far as like binding on, you're casting on and then you bind off too. If you want to check out the other tutorials, there's also an adjustable one, and the picots is a really great idea to try out. You could do an adjustable cast on, make a flat panel, and then you could do the picot bind off and make a bonnet, or do the opposite and do the cast on, do a panel, and then do a drawstring adjustable and make a bonnet that way. So you can do them in reverse, you can play around with it. There's any number of ways, but I suggest you just play around with your looms, make samples of all of these cast-ons and bind-offs, and see what works best for you in your next design. Have a great day. Please subscribe, make a comment, and happy looming. Bye-bye.